this isn't going to be a conspiracy video or a true crime video or anything like that. I spend quite a bit of time, probably too much if I'm being honest, browsing around the depths of YouTube. And something that I've caught a lot of is these YouTubers going around talking about their childhood trauma, so to speak. But this is in terms of things they found scary in media, television and movies, even if it wasn't intended to be scary. And it just, I really wanted to do this. It got me thinking about things. And I wanted to do it because of two reasons. One, I was scared of some really random, stupid shit. And I'm older than a lot of the other people who I have seen these videos done by. I was born in the 80's. And so maybe a few of these things will be different from the rest of the videos. Said I am not a famous YouTuber, but if you would like to help me get started on my path to becoming one, why don't you go ahead and subscribe and make sure to ring that bell and get those notifications for every time I upload a video, which at this point is really sparse and random. I'm gonna go ahead and get this one out of the way. This shark, this Hanna-Barbera shark, I didn't even know until I started researching this that his name was Jabberjaw, which doesn't help at all. He scared the hell out of me. Like, looking at it now, it's ridiculous to be scared of this, but 4-year-old me was petrified that this shark, which walked, shark shouldn't walk, why is he walking? It was just gonna come chasing me, wobbling down the fucking hallway with his little micro fins outstretched at me, trying to flipper my ass and chomp me to death. Like, it really wasn't right. I can remember being afraid of this thing. And looking at it now, I don't know why I was afraid of it, but this little toothy motherfucker scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. Speaking of things that shouldn't scare anybody that for some reason terrified me as a child, this damn two-part contest commercial thing from Cocoa Puffs. I don't know, I guess I was like 6 or something when I saw this for the first time, and nothing about this is scary. This is kind of creepy, but like the rest of it, I didn't even remember it right, so maybe I'm getting it confused with something else even, because this is just the most stupid thing ever to be scared of. It's a fucking cereal commercial, and it's not remotely even kind of scary. I don't even understand how 6, 7-year-old me could possibly have been remotely even creeped out by this. It's fucking downright joyous. I think I'm fundamentally broken in my brain after realizing what this was and remembering how scared it made me. Like, I grew up with my grandmother, and she would watch shows that were really, really older, you know, black and white. And she was also a horror type person or a true crime mystery type person. I grew up with those things. And I remember very distinctly waking up in a lit by an only a TV room, laying on the couch, you know, somewhere between awake and asleep while my mom was watching her old black and white shows. And this came on.
The Fugitive.
That maybe it's not the scariest opener, but 5 or 6-year-old me thought it was creepy. And I don't think I distinctly remember believing that it was fiction, that this wasn't like a true story about a guy. So all of that combined gave me this kind of creepy vibe going on. And then that motherfucker right here, that one-armed man, it just gave me the heebie-jeebies up and down my spine. That look, those vacant eyes, that it creeped me out. Major creep factor happened here. 5, 6-year-old me just creeped out all the way. Entries, admittedly, are kind of cliche for what they are, but they're cliche for a reason. And they're not so much horror trauma and scary trauma as they were just my first sense of gore as a child. And they are, of course, The Fly with Jeff Goldblum. Just classic body gore, body horror, just downright disgusting crap. And on a side note, not just the gore of that movie, but just the context in general.
I'm not just talking about sex and penetration. I'm talking about penetration beyond the veil of the flesh.
But that's just the progression of just grotesque disgust. I think it was one of the first movies that I actually watched peeking through my fingers for certain parts because I had a physical reaction to watching this movie when I watched it. It's just disgusting in every way. And I still have trouble watching parts of it. It's just, I get a physical gag reaction to that.
Feeding time, come and get it, boys. All right.
One that goes along with the gore factor or the gross out factor more, because it's not really gory so much as it just disgusted me, was the food scene from The Lost Boys, where it's and maggots in place of his rice and his noodles. I had a really hard time eating rice and noodles after this for a good chunk of time. It's more of a mind fuck, I think, than it was a scary thing. But trauma is trauma, and that shit stuck with me for a long time. And I'm sure it did most kids my age. Speaking of generational 80s kid trauma, I have to, of course, mention what everybody expected me to: A Nightmare on Elm Street and Freddy Krueger. I mean, just the concept of this guy is absolutely terrifying. He attacks you in your dreams. That is completely terrifying. There's practically nothing you could do to escape him. I mean, he's a nightmare monster. He's the perpetual boogeyman under the bed, and I don't know any kid that wasn't at one point completely terrified by the man who stalked you in your dreams, had knives for fingers, and deliberately went after children. I mean, he has everything that a kid should be made up to be afraid of, all rolled into one. Everybody I know was scared of him. I am no exception, and of course, Freddy Krueger had to be mentioned. I now would like to note that I absolutely love Freddy. He's probably my favorite movie monster, slasher film killer. He's my favorite. But at the time, when this was new, and I was a child, he literally terrorized me in my sleep. I was convinced that I was going to go to sleep and never wake up because Freddy was going to slash and it's where ugly is pretty and pretty is ugly, by our current standards. And I don't know if it was so much the idea of it or the actual looking at these motherfuckers. I mean, they're hideous, they're ugly. I don't know what did it. Just all around it gave me that vibe, that creepy, I don't like it, spine tingly, this isn't right vibe. Yeah, it still kind of gives me the heebie-jeebie, but I mean, I can watch it now. I won't have nightmares. But yeah, maybe this was my first kind of taste of dystopian feelings. Maybe that was it. I'm trying to pinpoint the feeling, but this one still gets me, and I feel like I'm not the only one that saw this as a kid and was kind of bothered by it. Looking at it now, actually, I can see a lot of political influences in it, but that wouldn't have hit me as a kid, so that couldn't have had no kind of a factor into it. Like the communism undertones, I can distinctly see now, but I don't know. It gave me the heebie-jeebie vibes as a kid. I was probably around, again, 5, 6, possibly 7. Yeah. You're going to notice the distinct kind of connecting theme between all of them. Not so much with this first one. This first one is just something that is just the absence of what is familiar to me. This show every single week, every Friday, 9 p.m. Fox. Yup. I was about 10 years old. At least I was a little bit older than 5 or 6, but these alternate taglines would come up on season finales and just very sparsely, randomly, and occasionally, and they legitimately always gave me the most creepiest because it wasn't supposed to be that way. And they were really creepy messages on top of that. And researching it, I got spine tingly feelings when I had to see this again. And I don't know if it's a combination of the theme music and the visuals, or if it's just the visuals, but I have a feeling it was just the visuals being different because I watch the show every week. It's kind of like that uncanny valley thing. It was close enough to looking right, but it just wasn't right. You're going to see a very strong connection between these last two entries. This one coming up is an intro to a TV show, which also aired on Fox. So thank you for a lot of my trauma, Fox. But it was about extraterrestrials, and it was called Sightings. Me and my dad would watch it every weekend. It came on I think it came on after X Files for a while, but it wasn't even just the opening credits, but it was a guarantee because of the alien face and the creepy imagery. It just got me going. I knew it was going to be a scary adventure for me. And a lot of the stories interchange. It was kind of like Unsolved Mysteries, but hella creepier, in my opinion. And it really got me creeped out. Many nightmares came out of this show. Short lived, underappreciated. This last century, I'm just I'm not even fucking around here. I've literally seen this scene 2 times in my whole entire life. One time was the original time that I watched it when I was a child. I was 10, 11, somewhere around there. And I don't even know why my parents see that they knew I had nightmares from, the sightings, shows, and other things, the X Files and just things that gave me creepies. They knew aliens creeped me out. It was a thing that was pretty well established in my childhood that I was creeped out by aliens. And yet they let me watch this. I've literally only watched it one other time since then, and I didn't make it all the way through. And I was a full grown adult at that time in my early 30s. All that I did in getting this footage for this video was look it up, briefly skim through it on pause with the little scroll and see what it was till the end, and download it, insert it, and I didn't watch it. I don't want the fresh nightmares. It severely traumatized me. Like, if there was anything that was childhood media trauma personified, it would be this for me. I am now 38 years old, and the subject matter scares me. This imagery still will give me nightmares. I probably will have nightmares just because I will remember it so strongly now. I'm not even ashamed of it. This shit fucking scares the shit out of me. And then it was also pointed out to me, it made sure that I knew that this was based on a true story. So this shit was supposedly really real. And even still to this day, the abduction story of Travis Walton is one of the most credible stories of alien abduction ever. So that really doesn't help to this day my nightmares at fucking all. Yeah, a fire in the sky. traumatized me. Legit trauma. That's where I think I'll leave it. That's a bit of what scared me as a kid. I mean, I was scared by your typical things, movie monsters, ghosts, random things my uncles would scare me and tease me about. But looking back, I wasn't really an overly scaredy cat of a kid. It was just a few small things that kept popping up. For some reason, aliens really got to me though, so that's the one that stuck the most. I now have completely different fears, but that one still lingers. Everybody's fears are what they are for what they are, but I hope you enjoyed learning about my wacky, weird childhood traumas. Until next time.